the spring during Great Lent of 1978, Father George Kalchu, who is a professor of theology and French literature in Bucharest and the Theological Institute, began a series of sermons that would shake his world and the world of the Romanian Orthodox Church in that time. Came on the heels of some precipitous events. The year before, 1977, a massive earthquake had devastated the city of Bucharest, and one of the opportunities or casualties, depending on how you look at it, the communist government took upon itself was to begin demolishing churches, beginning with a very historical 14th century church, the Aeneid Church. And there they planned to replace it with an even larger communist block building, which included a tavern as its highlight. So a church was being demolished to make way for a tavern. And this was emblematic of the crisis within communist Romania that Father George rose to speak about. And he asked God for 7 homilies. And you know all this, but I'm telling you just in case those who don't. And so each week he stepped forward and he bravely preached the truth about man's spiritual nature and how we are not created to be simply slaves to materialism. And on the 5th week, which is where we are at now in our series of reading them, by this point the government had decided to come and shut the church where he was preaching. So he preached outside on the doorstep. It's a beautiful church, it's a very nice porch, so it's a beautiful place still to preach. And you can see now in this homily today how there's kind of a shift in an understanding of the urgency of the situation, the danger that he realizes that he is under, and but yet the boldness remains. As St. Paul, even in his humility that we read in 1 Timothy today, how he says, I'm chief among sinners, but what does he immediately say after that? But I have been prepared. I am being set forward as a pattern for you of long suffering, of endurance, of faithfulness, so that you may imitate me. And Father George basically is giving the same message to his young flock of university students and seminary students who are risking imprisonment just to come and to hear him preach. So with no further ado, the 5th of the 7 homilies, the priesthood and human suffering, originally given April 5th, 1978. Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek, Hebrews 5:6. Perhaps you've been asking yourself, my young friend, why I have even been addressing you, and by what authority? What right do I have to give this message which is disturbing you and obliging you to face up to disquieting questions? Why have I come to confirm your own misunderstood fears and to open up to you perspectives which are so new and unexpected that they may break down your fragile balance of defenses? Perhaps by uncovering for you the purity and innocence which you did not recognize, I have made you even more vulnerable in the wicked world. I have made you more open to suffering, and it is natural that you should ask, what is the purpose of suffering? Has it a finality, or is it just a blind happening, a fate traced by the stars, or an endless ocean in which you swim without hope of reaching any shore? I speak to you in the name of Christ and his church, in the name of the priesthood to which Christ called me, because nothing in this world is an interplay of unconscious, arbitrary happenings. All things stem from a cause and hold fast towards an end, which stands outside this world. The cause is God, the end is God. He is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. But what is the image of this world? What certainty does it offer us? What happiness awaits us at the unknown corners of life? What consolation in misfortune? I will not begin with life or death, neither with the beginning nor the end, but with the given, that which happens to us every day. Have you asked yourself, young person, what is your purpose in the world? And either everything is reduced simply to that. If we were born to be slaves of matter, even if only as a philosophical justification, then the end of your life is slavery. If our freedom is reduced to need and logic, then our freedom is slavery. If all our knowledge is reduced to a sterile and never realized understanding of the laws of matter, then our knowledge is slavery. And if our love is reduced to the struggle for existence, and our sacrifice is for the perpetuating of the species, then these things too are but slavery. And finally, if all of our convictions spring from an imposed official doctrine, then they cannot be but slavery. And in all this series, young friend, where is the place for your soul? You sense that there exists, away from all the materialism with which you have been intoxicated, and far from the atheism which has been imposed upon you like a violent ideology, something vaster, more authentic, and yet closer to you personally than all that which suffocates you in this materialist bath. Your spirit within you propels you towards that something, as towards a world only envisioned and suspected. This world sees its own image like the blue sky, glistening in the sun through the grid of prohibitions which this society imposes on it. You must know, friend, that neither an atheist ideology nor the materialist order, no matter how authoritatively it might be imposed upon you, is capable of raising up an absolutely impregnable wall between you and the spiritual world. The soul cannot be made a prisoner. This is a law which the materialists refuse to recognize at their own peril. On the spiritual level, there is no captivity without hope. Your teachers speak to you of atheism and secretly go to church. Behold a crack through which the golden light of the spiritual dimension reaches you. Your ideological leaders thunder and hurl lightning against religion, uttering the most foul curses, yet at the moment of disaster they make the sign of the cross, asking for God's help, as, for example, during the earthquake of March 4th, 1977. Behold another crack through which the soul escapes the suffocating locker which the official ideology diligently built up for you. In atheist meetings, those obliged to speak condemn those who believe or who were caught in the criminal act of going to church. Yet away from the lying words, far from their false-toned platform proclamations, you discern their fear of being discovered as also having religious beliefs. The lie in which they so lamentably swim breaks down once more the wall of your incarceration, and you say, as the sweet light breaks through, whence this unnatural light? It is a light foreign to our world. I spoke to you about these things in my previous 4 sermons. I will continue to speak about them, for I am a priest of Christ. God has revealed to us through love, the mysteries of his works. And Jesus has commanded me to make it known to you, so that you will say no more, I did not know it. I speak so that you might know that you can fly, that only spiritual flight is truly exalted. The flight of materialism is flight with broken wings. I speak openly to you about all these things because the Church of Christ has come out of the catacombs. She shines blindingly on the soil of this country, which is highly esteemed in our hearts. The Aeneia Church was destroyed. But who among us, Romanian and Christian, can forget it? A tavern, a symbol of a concept which considers the church a plague, will be put in its place. A tavern. So once more the people will be happy. Woe to the architect who builds there, binding his name forever with the destruction of something that was a demonstration of the Romanian genius of construction and faith. Woe to the officials who believe that they can win glory and power by the destruction of churches and the construction of bars. Woe to the concept that considers an agapia inn more valuable than the agapia monastery. Woe to those who consider that the Romanian Patriarchate is a piece of history which can be placed in a museum, and who have not understood that it has a real life which is always present. It is not a historical relic, but a living soul. Woe to those who bow to force, allowing destruction which will never be accepted by history. I have said all these things to you because I am a priest. And because we are priests, we obey the command of God, which says that a burning light cannot be hid under a bushel, but must shine before all. I have said all these things, young friends, that you might judge if it is right before God to listen to men rather than to God. For he who gave himself upon the cross for the salvation of the world commanded us not to hide the divine truth. I have said all these things to you that you might understand that through faith we shatter walls and break down the bonds of prejudice and abuse, even if we shall have tribulation in this world. There is a continual battle between good and evil, between right and wrong, between freedom and captivity of ideas, between purity and corruption. All these battles take place on only one field of combat, the heart of man. I, a priest of Christ, address this heart, for as Pascal has said, the heart has its own way of thinking, which reason ignores. What then does the priesthood mean? It means to be an enduring witness to human suffering and to take it upon your own shoulders. To be the one who warms the leper at his own breast and who gives life to the miserable through the breath from his own mouth. To be a strong comfort to every unfortunate one, even when you yourself are overwhelmed with weakness. To be a ray of shining light to unhappy hearts when your own eyes long ago ceased to see any light. To carry mountains of other suffering on your shoulders while your own being screams out with the weight of its own suffering. Your flesh will rebel and say, "This heroism is absurd, impossible. Where is such a man? Where is the priest you describe, so that I may put my own suffering upon his shoulders?" Yet nevertheless, he exists. From time to time, there awakens within us the priest of Christ, who, like the Good Samaritan, will kneel down by the side of the man fallen among thieves, and putting him upon his own donkey, will bring him to the church of Christ for healing, and he will forget himself and comfort you, O man of suffering. Who else would be moved by your suffering today? Who else would bear your burden, giving you words of comfort? From whom else would you hear today the words of Christ, "Come unto me, all ye that are labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest"? I have seen you, my young friend, bullied by your elders, mocked and insulted for the simple crime of being young. I spoke to you then as one in weakness and pain, as a sensitive and defenseless being. Then I saw you, to my horror and joy, bow and kiss my hand, that of a priest of Christ who brought you comfort. Because you have overcome death, to which atheist doctrine has condemned you, because you have been exalted above the ruins of fallen materialism through your youth and faith, I speak to you the words which Jesus spoke through the apostles to the Gentiles. They sound absurd to the prisoner of matter and materialism, to those who substitute taverns for churches and indecency for suffering. But to you they will resound full of spiritual meaning and truth. The preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, "I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and I will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent." Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? 1 Corinthians 1. Where are all these men, my friends? There are none of them left. but you have remained here alive and whole in the church of Christ, a holy people, one by God, a foundation stone on which the Orthodox spirit of the Romanian people is built. You are its only salvation and preservation through this age. Given at the Radu Voda Church, 4th Wednesday of Great Lent, April 5th, 1970. Through the prayers of our Holy Fathers, George, Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us and save us. Amen.
Let us say with all our soul and with all our mind, let us say, O Lord Almighty, the God of our fathers, we pray thee, hearken and have mercy. Have mercy on us, O God, according to thy great goodness, we pray thee, hearken and have mercy.